This is a quick video on how to make selections and then also refine your selection for more detail using a mask. So in this photograph here, I want to separate and make a selection of the sky versus the ground here. So I'm going to have to deal with this really complex horizon line or contrast between the sky and the ground. The first step is to duplicate your layer. I'm going to name my layer Desert because that's what I want to select. But I'm actually going to start a little bit differently. I'm going to start by selecting the sky because as I look at this, I notice that the sky is going to be a little bit easier considering it has a limited color palette of light blues and shades of blue and white. So going back from our previous video, I'm going to use a tool that will help me, and it's going to be the quick selection tool. Notice that I have the new copied layer selected and the initial layer is turned off. Let's set up our quick selection brush for add. Right now it's at 30 size with a hardness of 100. I'm going to use my shortcut keys to increase the size a bit. And I think 125 should be fine. I'm just going to go ahead and start with short brush strokes to get my initial selection. Short brush strokes so that I don't get too much. Just enough. Now notice that I've got the selection on the left edge, top edge, right edge, but as we go across here, the quick select stopped right before it got into the darker shades of the image, which is good. We now have our initial selection. How you get your initial selection can be any way you want using the selection tools, but I would always suggest that you start with a selection before you refine your selection and make your mask. After you've made your selection, you now want to begin making your mask, or at least refining your selection for the mask. Again, let me zoom in. You can notice where the marching ants are. Let's spot some of our complex areas. This area needs to be refined so that it picks up on these small shrubs here, these plants here, and this larger plant. We also need to get around the building a little bit better. We need to include these cacti, looks like. And also, look at this. This tree didn't get selected. So that's what I mean by refine. We're going to pick up on all those details. After you make your selection, again, make sure you're on the copied layer. You want to go to Select, Select and Mask. What's going to happen is it's going to take you to a whole new window with new tools and a new properties panel. The view that I'm currently in is black and white, and I highly suggest that anybody's just starting with Refine Edge or Select and Mask, go with black and white because it is easy to see the contrast when it's done. All right, now because we went ahead and selected the sky, I'm now going to switch it. Because the sky was easier, you got to remember it's the desert that I want to have selected. So in a mask, which is what this represents, remember that white reveals, black hides. So what I want to do is switch the selection so that the desert is revealed and the sky is hidden and not selected. To do that, after changing my view to black and white, I'm going to come down here and invert. That was easy. So now I'll be working with the desert and not the sky. Now that we've gotten that situated as to what we're looking at here, we're going to look at these tools. Here you have the quick select. So yeah, I could have come in here and just used the quick select after I chose select and mask. But it was good to see where to start, wasn't it? And that's why I suggest you always start with the selection before going to select and mask. We don't need this tool now. We do need this tool, which is the Refine Edge brush. It's going to help us find our detail. This is if you make a mistake, you can brush back or reselect. This tool is actually a tool I'm going to demonstrate later, which will find objects for you. You have your freeform lasso tool along with polygonal pan tool and your magnifying glass. Let's come back to this Refine Edge brush. And it is a brush, so we want to use Add. And we want to make sure that our hardness is at least 50% and the size depends on how much area you want to cover. It looks like I could probably reduce this down a little bit to about 200. The reason why is because I want to just have a little bit in the black and a little bit in the white so that I can bring out some of that contrast. Now remember some of those things that we needed to bring out? Let's see. I'm just going to click and I'm going to do short strokes. Not too much. Okay. And we start to see some detail appear right here. Let's keep going. Look at that. All right, remember that bush right there. We're going to keep going. I'm not too far in the black, not too far in the white. I'm just going right along that edge where it can find that detail. Remember there was some cacti right there. All right, so I went ahead and pulled out all that detail, but there are still some places that I can touch up. Never settle. Always consider what you have available to help you. So in this case here, I'm going to go and actually use that paintbrush. The reason why is it's going to allow me to add to the selection. See, some of those areas I didn't need to be selected. Those little shadows, this car didn't need to be selected. You know, we just wanted the right along the horizon line, that's all. And I'm just going to give this more of a soft edge. The soft edge of the brush helps you blend. It's a nice way to blend what you're drawing with. And we didn't need all this stuff that's in the ground. I'm just taking my time to touch this up. Now, after that's been touched up, I'm now going to subtract because some of these clouds got in here and I didn't want that. I'm going to make the hardness of my brush a little bit softer just so I get a faded edge. I'm just going to clean up some of these clouds using the subtract option for the brush. I just don't want those to come up in my selection. Okay, so this is refining the edge of a selection. We started by selecting the sky. We inverted after we went into select and mask so that now the ground is selected, not the sky. We're now going to go over to our settings and tweak this a little bit. With the smart radius turned on, I would suggest 2 to 3 pixels. When you type your number, don't hit enter, hit tab. And that way you can cycle between your fields. I'm now in global refinements. I do not wish to smooth out what I just did here, nor do I want to fade the edge of what I've done here. I do want to increase my contrast, so I'm going to do 2% there, but I'm not going to do any shift edge. The last thing that I'll do is I'll make sure that what is output is just a selection. I'm not going to go ahead and do decontaminate colors or any other settings. I just want to make sure that it says selection in the output. And I'm going to say remember settings. Now I'll hit OK. Check out my refined selection. The marching ants have now found all of that detail. And here is the result. Now what I can do with that is I can make a mask. Okay? I can make a mask and use a color adjustment. Okay? With that mask. So if I wanted to change the color of this desert, now that it's selected, I can go up to adjustments, and with the mask on, watch what happens when I choose a curves adjustment. Not only does the adjustment appear, but it also shows me the mask, and the mask is exactly what we made in the select and mask window. As a result, I can now change just the color of the desert. Oh, that's hot. This was selection with select and mask, or refining a selection using a mask.